Hey everyone, and welcome to our Facebook Live on Friday night. I'm glad you could join us. Jennifer has been filling me in here that we have some people from Southern California and all over the place. So anyways, welcome. And if you want to type in the comments where else you might be from, you might know that we have a special guest today. And if you've ever heard of NNEP, which is National Network of Embroidery Professionals, or if you've ever been to an Embroidery Mart show, give us some hearts, some thumbs up, put in some comments, because I'm super excited about this. Actually, Jennifer, I think Jennifer Cox, that is the first guest that I've ever had on one of my Facebook Lives. So we're starting this out right, and it's going to be hard to fill her shoes afterwards. So other thing before we get started, because I know some people are still joining us right now, I have a habit every morning. I like to go for a little walk, and sometimes it's longer than others. But first thing I do when I go to walk is I like to think about my day coming up, and I like to kind of just have a time where I give thanks for things, for life, for all that. So if you want to just type in what you're thankful about today, that would make me feel good as well. I mean, there's so much stuff going on in the world today, and there's things that are out of our control, but I hope that all of us here can be thankful for somebody. So give us some comments there as well. Jennifer, are you going to say anything, or are you just leaving me on my own today?
On your own, baby.
I'm on my own today. Okay. This is going to be fun.
One Jennifer's enough to handle.
Oh, no, one Jennifer's enough. I have two Jennifers today, which is going to be awesome. Okay. Well, thanks for joining us, guys. And I have a couple of quick things that I do want to draw attention to before we get started with our interview. And that is, number one, we do have one announcement, and I thought I'd get my announcements out of the way first as opposed to at the end. We actually are just announcing live right now our third virtual Digitizer's Dream workshop. And if you have been part of our virtual workshops so far, this is the third one. The first one we did was in February, and we just wrapped one up a couple weeks ago. But this one is going to be happening actually and I guess it's November 7th, and they do run for 3 consecutive weeks. So it is a 2-week workshop. Give us some thumbs up if you've participated in those so far, but that is being announced right now. And we are doing a early bird sign up for 1 week only, where it's going to be $97. And that is only going to be 1 week this time. And then the price is going up. So you might want to sign up for that. If you haven't done any of our education before, I'm going to explain it really quickly to you, because we made things even more confusing during the last workshop. We actually, a couple days in, announced our challenge, and I do have a slide right here just so you can see it. We actually have 4 different forms of education for digitizing. It's kind of what I'm known for. Digitizing is what I've been teaching for pretty much 25 years now, and it has changed over the years, but we have gotten into virtual classes and classes where we are able to teach you live. And that is possible because we use the same software, and we give you video lessons that you can actually work through at your own convenience. Well, we did come out with a free challenge, and I said the word free, and James is going to put up a link here. So if you have never used Hatch or tried Hatch before, you can download a 30-day full-featured trial of Hatch 2. There's no strings attached, and I have 8 lessons on YouTube that are absolutely free. We give you the designs that you load in to the software, so you can actually digitize the designs, and you can take this challenge. And we set this up so that people can kind of give it a test drive, because a lot of people don't know if they really want to get into digitizing, but they don't necessarily want to spend $1,000 or $2,000 to see if it's something they want to do. And I totally respect that. So this allows you to do a complete course. There is like 8 different lessons, and you can give it a try. And if you like it, then you can go to the next stage. And that is the Virtual Digitizer's Dream workshop, which I just told you about. That actually is a 2-week course, and it kind of has replaced our live hands-on 2-day workshops. We did those all across the US and in New Zealand and Australia for the last 3 or 4 years. And they work great because, again, we're using the same software program and showing you and teaching you what to do and what buttons to press, and you follow along. The real advantage to these, since we started them earlier in the year, is it's a little better than the hands-on 2-day workshops that we did in cities all across the US, because you aren't pressured to do everything in 2 days, and then you leave and you forget 90% of what you did. This is over a 2-week period, and you can do it at your own pace, at your own time, but we keep it interactive with the video lessons and with the webinars so that you're able to touch base with us. So that is the workshop. We do have our Digitizer's Dream course, which is our paid education, and that one is even more advanced, meaning that there's more detail, a lot more lessons. Those lessons never expire. You have them for life in your classroom, and you can do it at your own convenience and do it over a course of years if you want to, and always come back to them as a resource. And the beautiful part about that is we do teach it in 10 different software programs. So I literally did lessons in 10 software programs so that you are seeing and doing in the software that you own. So if you own Floriani or Stitch Artists or the Dime software or any of them, you can actually get hands-on interactive education. And then we just came out with our advanced lessons, and those, I got to be honest, they're only taught in Hatch. You can try to transfer them to another software program, but they are advanced, and we've done some beautiful stuff, and there's more of those coming. So I just wanted to explain to you the difference between all of our education, because we confused people a little bit at the beginning of our last Virtual Digitizers workshop, because they didn't understand what's the free thing about and what's the paid lessons and how does this work in between. The way it works, I got to be honest, I named my book and our site Digitizing Made Easy. I did not name it Digitizing is Easy, because there is a learning curve, and you do actually Jennifer had to bring this up, the book. So 43,000 copies sold, and hopefully it will be coming up for republication. We're just working with the new publishers because unfortunately the last one recently went out of business. So I think that's about it. And give us some thumbs up if you've taken our education for digitizing, because that is something, I got to be honest, it's what I specialize in, and it's what I've been kind of known for all the years that I've been an educator. Now, the other thing I did want to tell you about really quickly, because this ties into my featured guest, is we actually announced that we are partnering with ZSK, and James should put a little link in there where if you want to, take a closer look at the machines and get some information. And they do start at $15,000 US, so it's not a crazy price point in my opinion compared to all the other machines that are out there. And it is kind of the Rolls Royce of embroidery machines. We're super excited because we're going to be obviously having some people from ZSK, talk to us within our How to Make Money with Embroidery. I got to be honest, you do not need to have a commercial embroidery machine to get started. You can start with a flatbed home machine. You can start an embroidery business with a $600 machine, a brother machine. You're starting a business. But like anything, a person can build a house with a hammer, but a person can also build a house with a nail gun. And you are going to be just faster. The better the equipment, the faster the equipment, the more you're going to increase your output, and you're going to, make your business grow. So that's really the rule of thumb, is you don't have to start with the best, but eventually you'll probably get there, because if you haven't figured it out, embroidery is a little contagious, and you end up having a machine stash after a while, as well as designs and software and stabilizers and threads and everything else that you can imagine. So that is with that. Now, we did announce last week, and it's been a really busy month. This is our third Facebook Live in a row, that the How to Make Money with Embroidery webinar, it's a full day webinar. It's going to be October 17th, later on this year. We do have it available for 51% off right now. And we do have a incredible lineup of educators. I'll be giving some classes. My sons will be doing things on social media. We have my friend Elnor, who's going to give some machine maintenance stuff. And we have Frank from ZSK, who's going to talk about innovative things. But most importantly, we have a very special guest, and her name is Jennifer Cox. And Jennifer is going to come in right now, as long as I can figure out the technology. So bear with me for 1 second, guys. But Jennifer is going to be giving a couple of seminars. And if I remember, I said, if this works out for me. And James is saying, please, Dad, do not. Okay, there we go. Jennifer, how are you?
Hey.
Hey, all right. Look, I did this. And once again, there's been an ongoing joke, Jennifer, since the last webinar that I am not able to do more than one thing at a time. And pushing all these buttons, it does get a little confusing for me. So I did it. But how are you? Well, I think Jennifer.
I relate. I cannot ride a bike and chew gum. So, hey, I get it.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I am so excited to have you with us here today, but I'm really excited that you've agreed to do a couple of classes for us at our How to Make Money. I don't know exactly how many years it's been since we met, Jennifer, but I know that it is going on at least past 20 years. Would you agree with me on that one?
I'm thinking close to 25.
Yeah, I think you might be right. When I was an educator in the commercial industry, Jennifer does run a show called Embroidery Mart. And even after I left the commercial industry, when I did talk to people about starting businesses and making money with embroidery, I'd always refer them to your show because it is one of the best places, in my opinion, for a startup embroiderer to go and get associated with, people in their new industry. So I actually had a couple of questions. Number one is I wanted to find out how you got started in this industry because we've both been at it for a long, long time.
Well, it's kind of a funky story. My mom and dad, my mom worked in corporate America, was the person that ran the committee to hire the new CEO. She found the guy, got him hired. First thing he did was come in and clean house, fired everybody, starting with mom. So she went and said, so much for corporate America. And she went uptown, the little town I grew up in, and bought a needle arts boutique, a yarn shop, knitting, cross-stitch, needlepoint store. And she stuck her head in fiber arts and she never came out again. But in the process, they saw one of these commercial embroidery machines. This is in the late 80s when they were really just becoming kind of available on the small business side of things, as opposed to the equipment that you owned and ran, the great big banks and banks. These were single head, single needle commercial embroidery machines. And the Tajima was the first machine that really came out in our part of the country. And so my parents went and bought one embroidery machine, single needle, single head, and started the embroidery business, what they thought would be a good complement to the high-tech, low-tech side of the business. Well, their first order was for 400 pieces with 17 color changes. After that, they were like, oh, this is a real business. And they never looked back. So about 4 months in, they asked me if I would come home and join the family business. I, of course, said, heck no. I had graduated from college, moved away, was living my life in a townhouse in the big city, Columbus, Ohio. And, had a good job, had started my adult life out on my own, and I was loving it. So I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. Come back and work at the yarn shop. Are you crazy? So it was called the Ball and Skein, and I called it the Ball and Chain because now they were stuck working retail 6 days a week. Well, there was an event, and I'll draw John that you'll recognize. Shirley Housen, Shirley Bird at the time, Barbara Beam, Frank Goronsky, Walter Floriani, and I'm forgetting one more. But all of those folks came. Barbara Beam ran this event, and it was in Columbus, Ohio. So my parents somehow managed to twist my arm and get me to meet them there at the conference for the day. I called off work and went, and fine, I'll go with you for the day. Well, they went at the end of the day and went out and had dinner with my sister, who I was sharing the townhome with. And they left me at the conference for the mixer afterwards, the social hour. It turns out I spent the entire evening with Frank, Shirley, Walter, Barbara, and this group of people, and I fell in love with commercial embroidery. I literally went into work on Monday. This was on a Friday. I went into work, gave my 2 weeks notice, packed up my life, found a roommate for my sister, and moved 2 hours back north to Northeast Ohio and joined the embroidery business. So we had the single needle machine at home. We bought another one. So now I have 2 single heads at home. Mom's up running the yarn shop. Dad's off on a traditional, corporate sales job. Work got busy enough that now we added another machine, and we talked to the landlord at the yarn shop and said, hey, we want to take the machines to the business. How do we do that? So we took over some more space, built in a sewing room, a production sewing room for our 4 head, big machines. So, now we've got 4 single heads going. Then 2 years later, we decide, you know what, the yarn shop is really not going to make it. We're having too hard of a time competing with Joann Fabrics and Michaels and Hobby Lobby for the 39-cent skein of DMC embroidery floss. But I can make $40 selling 1 golf shirt. So what do you think? There goes the yarn shop. We closed it, sold off the assets, went and bought a old-fashioned mom and pop grocery store where you lived upstairs and the store was on the first floor. Mom and Dad lived upstairs, and the embroidery business took over, I think it was like 4,000 square feet on the ground floor. And that became our production facility. So we ended up with multi-heads. We ended up with cutters, heat press, pneumatics, hooping machines.
Now, just as a timeline, Jennifer, how long from that time that you started until you went into larger scale production was that?
2 years.
2 years. Wow.
Yeah, I doubled the sales in 4 months. I doubled again by the end of that first year. So I went from, they had like doubling the sales means we had like $5,000 or $10,000 of sales before I got there. Then I got us to 25,000. By the end of the year, we'd gone over 50,000. By the end of the second year, when we got rid of the yarn shop, I'd gone up to almost 250,000.
Wow, that's incredible.
So, well, it was the sweet spot. It was in the early 90s, and it was that golden time when everybody was getting logos and everybody was really into local branding, and everybody.
I just have to also touch on the fact that you did have a true rock star lineup there between Shirley, Walter, and Frank. And Frank, actually, he was located in, or still is probably in.
It still is in Columbus.
Yeah. So, and some of you may not know any of those names. Obviously, Walter is, and we're all very, very sad at his passing. I remember I met Walter when I was 19 years old at a bobbin world in Georgia. That's when Walter and I met. So. Oh, that's incredible.
Well, you guys are both multi-generation legacies.
Yeah, it was rather unique, but same thing with you. I mean, that's amazing. And going from that transition where you obviously started in the industry, got addicted, you went from a single head to 4 single heads to basically, quadrupling your sales in a matter of 2 years. How did it evolve to NNEP? Like, where did you see the need to bring embroiderers together and to, I guess, help them meet their needs?
Well, it started out from a need that we had. I had always a vision ever since I was little that I was going to own a business and it was going to be $1 million business. I'd known this since I was like 8. I was the one kid in the family of 4 kids that was going to go out and make something of myself. And so I'd always had this vision of $1 million business. By the way, I'm still waiting to get there. But I tried to take we got to over $500,000 with the embroidery. And I was handling all the sales. Mom was running production. We were running 2 shifts, doing everything we possibly could to take it to the next level. And I realized there's got to be things that I don't know that people that are running $1 million company, they do know. So I literally called up every business owner of $1 million+ embroidery company within a 6-hour drive of Cleveland, Ohio. And I said, I'd like to buy you lunch or dinner. When are you available? And we made a time. I got in my car, I drove, I sat and bought them a meal. I asked my questions. All of them were men. I'm in my late 20s at this point. All of them are men, and every single one of them said, gosh, that's interesting, but no, I'm not going to help you. And sent me on my way and thanked me for dinner or lunch. So I came back and I said, boy, there is really no infrastructure, no community in this industry. It really is dog eat dog. And I wasn't, and this is a broad globalization, but women collaborate, men compete. That's just kind of the conditioning we get as children in sport. And, we're supposed to make the home and make everybody comfortable. You guys are supposed to go out there and win on your team. And it's just the nature of it, at least where I grew up. And, the conditioning that we get through our culture. So I decided
I'll just interrupt you for 1
be...
second. I'll interrupt you for 1 second. I was actually brought up by 2 women, so they broke me a long time ago. So.
Hey, I married one like that. I one that was highly trainable. So, but I decided that if I connected with, there were over 60 embroidery shops within a 1-hour radius of my business that I was competing with for every single job, from the littlest order of a 1 baby gift through 500, 600, 700, several thousand pieces for the General Motors stamping plants. We have 4 or 5 General Motors and automotive industry giants all within an hour or 2 of our location. And I was doing work with them or for them. And I decided that there were companies that really loved doing applique. I hated it. There were companies who loved doing hats. My machines hated them. There were companies that loved doing 1,000 pieces. I really didn't have the equipment for 1,000+ piece orders. That wasn't my sweet spot. I was in the 500 range. So I thought, well, shoot, why don't we all put our, hat on the table and say, this is what I'm really good at. And I don't want your customers, but I want the work. So if I do this for you, would you do that for me? So the NNEP, at the time, it was called Embroidery Network, started out as a collaboration of what are your strengths and sweet spots and how can I help you live in that space? And then what are your sweet spots that I can get rid of that are not mine and help you live in that space and help me live not in that space. Both of us win because we keep our own customers, the work gets produced, but we're not pulling our hair out. We're not going crazy fighting things that are not in our sweet spot. Yeah. So ultimately it was to help us with our business, but the net gain was a collaborative environment for helping businesses grow, succeed, improve skills, improve marketing, have a team behind them instead of being in a silo all by yourself, having to reinvent the wheel when John customer comes in and says, hey, can you do this? There's got to be somebody already done it.
And I think that's what you really do best, right? You have a structure set up where somebody can come in who is a new embroiderer and you can basically take them by the hand and show them how to get insurance, how to, shipping. And if they do get orders for 10,000 pieces, you have an association of embroiderers that will assist them in that so they can still take the orders, make a profitable margin on it. Really, that's what you're set up to really do, right?
Yeah. And actually, quite honestly, that's one of the most fun parts of the work that we do supporting embroidery business owners is helping them dream their ideal business and then helping them build the road that's going to take them there. Because every business is the same. We all have a machine that makes a needle go up and down and puts in pretty thread. Beyond that, nothing is the same. It's how you do it, what your vibe is. Are you in a beach resort town, or are you in a kiosk at a mall? Are you at a racetrack? Are you going to the American Quarter Horse Congress once a year for 3 weeks? What's your gig? Yeah. And so then we help design your business.
And that's what we will really focus on, is helping people define their niche and how to be the most productive within their niche, how to market their niche properly. But if you do the small jobs properly, I've seen this happen over and over again, the bigger jobs that you might not necessarily be going after, they end up coming to you just because of the reputation you have within your industry. And that's where a lot of embroiderers, they don't know what to do when that person comes to them and says, you know, I would love for you to do 10,000 baseball hats for me. And they look shocked like a deer in the headlights, no pun intended, because they have nothing set up behind them to be ready to make that move or jump forward. And to be honest, that is, in my opinion, the best situation that you can be in, is for somebody to, you know, offer you, essentially, you're not having to go out and try to get that business. They're actually coming to you. And all you have to do is say, you know,
Right, they're landing on the door.
Yeah. So that is awesome. I mean, it is amazing how, and I agree with you, the industry is different, but really it's all kind of the same. I had a big factory with lots of heads running, but the, you know, small embroiderers are starting in essence with the exact same foundation.
Yes, Stitch has been formed the exact same way for decades, and it's not going to change.
So which came first, the chicken or the egg? Because I know NNEP, when I kind of met you, was already going, but your Embroidery Mart show was also going at the same time. And the Embroidery Mart show is incredible. Obviously, I think this year, unfortunately, things had to be postponed, but God willing, next year you'll be back up and running. But I really do think that's one of the best resources for a new embroiderer, is to get out there and to see the world around them.
Yeah. Actually, it's the chicken and the egg walked up together and said hi at the same time, because we launched NNEP by having an event. That was the birth of NNEP, was an embroidery conference.
So the very first conference you did, that birthed NNEP. Wow.
Yep,
I did not know that.
June 21st of 1996. I still know the date.
Wow, that's incredible. Awesome. Well, I know that James is going to put up a link for NNEP, and he has put up a link already. Awesome. And I will let people know that if you are thinking about, you know, starting an embroidery business or making money with embroidery, it is the best money you'll spend becoming part of that association, because it does give you incredible resources that you won't have to go out and spend time looking for. It really is a, you know, you're handing it to them on a platter in reality. So there is a link there. And if you want to follow that link, Jennifer, you do have your association membership. It is an annual membership, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, you pay once a year.
Okay.
So if you joined this week, for example, you'd be good through the beginning of August next year.
Okay. But I will make a little side note. If you are planning on attending our How to Make Money with Embroidery webinar, it might be worth waiting until that time to join the association, because Jennifer and I have a little collaboration where I'm going to be including a little fun free gift for you guys who are going to join us. So that is an option as well. So you're more than welcome to check out the site. And if you know you're not going to attend our workshop, then, you know, feel free. But there will be a special gift for you if you do it during the time of the workshop as well. And obviously for next year, with regards to Embroidery Mart, are you kind of playing it by ear at this point, given the situation?
Unfortunately, I think we're going to have to take a wait and see approach, because event management at this point is so sketchy as to when it will be viable to bring groups of people together again safely. And it's not me saying that, it's the hotel and the convention center and the governors of the states that are saying, you know, no, you cannot get together. So until that starts to evolve into whatever the next, you know, step of this whole pandemic is, nobody's having anything, because you just can't even book it right now. They won't even take a contract.
I agree. Now, obviously, that's the key thing, is we are obviously in a global crisis and there is a pandemic, but And I'm just asking you this because I know my answer. Do you think that this is potentially a good time to start an embroidery business?
Oh my goodness, this is a perfect time because everybody's staying local. They can't just go, all around town or, 4 towns over anymore. Everybody's staying so close to home as they should be. So in every small town, there's an opportunity for the gas station, the little mom and pop restaurant, the auto worker, the painter, the drywall guy, the plumber. They all need stuff that says, Jeff the plumber, and I do drywall, and I fix, antique furniture. They all need something to identify them as a local business solution for their markets. And embroidery is the way that happens. And people want to buy it, see it, touch it.
Yeah, and I personally love how this has transitioned into a business that almost is better to run out of a home. I've said for years, I mean, we started out with 2 factories, 54 employees. We did high volume work, and we did see all of that go offshore over the period of decades. And since that point, I've always tried to keep my overhead down, kind of work within my means. I maybe it's wisdom, I don't know, but I've just tried to have that mentality. And it seems like this has really brought that whole thing together, where if you do have an embroidery business and you do have the space to run it out of your home, it is almost a perfect situation. I mean, there's a lot of things that you have to make sure are in place, which you can assist with that. But it is one of those situations where, people, I don't think they'll be working the way they used to last year at this time. The world has changed, and this is almost a friendly evolvement into that.
Yeah, and half the businesses in the commercial embroidery industry are home-based. So it's a model that has been proven to be very, very successful, because they're doing $7 billion in annual sales across the entire embroidery industry. Think about half those businesses are home-based. That's billions with a B.
With a B. And I love the fact that your operating expenses are within your means, so to speak. And as far as getting out to consumers, it used to be a storefront mentality, or a mentality where you had to go to a public place, which obviously we can't do that right now. We can't, go to a craft show. We can't go to a cheerleading meet. We can't do all of that. But we have seen that the one, I guess, silver lining in everything that's happened lately is that technology has gotten us to a point with social media and with the internet that really has become our new medium of getting to the consumer. So I personally think it's a really exciting time to start a business like this. If you're kind of like anything, you got to be there at ground level. And it's, my grandfather always said, to be successful, in business, you have to be potentially first. It has to be obviously a good idea, but if you're first, that's the best place to be as far as positioning is concerned.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I agree wholeheartedly that this is kind of a perfect storm in the worst possible way for us as a race of human beings, but for the opportunities for startup business at home and embroidery, opportunity. Do you hear it knocking?
Yeah, and that I've said this before, you'll probably hear it for the first time, but my kids who are now part of our business, so that's, been a real blessing with our legacy, but my sons were basically edging me on the last 2 or 3 years to do virtual workshops and to do all of this. And it just happened that we really launched this whole platform in February of this year. And then lo and behold, what happened? So I just, I've said to my wife, it is almost a gift from God that we were prepared for this without knowing that any of it was going to happen. But it's
you were first.
Yeah, and you're never too late. I mean, it's a new market that people are basically exploring and trying to get their footing in, because there is a lot of things that you do need to have in place with regards to workflow, with regards to finding your niche, with regards to, how you're going to get into the whole e-commerce scenario of it. How are you going to sell online? How are you going to promote your products online? So there's a lot of really exciting things where we got to learn new stuff. And I got to be honest, it's not easy for me because I'm getting a little bit older, but this is where bringing family into the business, if you have, like you came in to Europe, and I remember your mom and dad, they were with you actually at all those shows years ago when we used to
They were my business partners.
Yeah. And they still are, aren't they?
My dad is. We lost my
dad.
mom a couple years ago, but my dad is
sorry.
still involved.
Yeah. So that is amazing, because you came into the business at that time when things were kind of transitioning to going offshore, right? And now we see the business changing. I think businesses don't necessarily die, they just basically evolve, and we need to be evolving with them. And sometimes it takes that younger person like you back then and my children now to assist us with, new ideas and new ways of thinking.
And that's one of the things that's been really fun with helping so many embroidery business owners over the last 25 years with NNEP is, as things have evolved and cycled and shifted, I've gotten to be a fly on the wall for all these different kinds of businesses and see their highs and their lows, their mistakes and their aha moments, and take those and then spread them around in ways that benefit businesses that are not their competition.
Which is a perfect segue into my next question. You're going to be giving 2 classes at our full day webinar, and I'll let you tell everybody kind of what they are and what they're going to cover. But that's why I was really thankful that you agreed to partner with us on this, because obviously I know your association has incredible value to new embroiderers who are starting out. But just as you said, you have, and please don't take this the wrong way, you've been around. You've
compliment, don't worry.
You've seen some of the best educators in the industry, and you've been involved with businesses over the last 25 years. So as much as we have to be prepared for the new parts of technology, there's still something to be said from the experience that you gather over years of, trial and error. So I'm going to give this to you. Tell us about what you're going to be teaching.
All right. Well, clearly I get very enthusiastic about the embroidery business, and marketing is my sweet spot. It's where I just have the most fun. I love working with a business and going, okay, tell me your story. How did you get here? Like how you asked me. How did you get here where you're either in business or starting a business or thinking about starting an embroidery business? And then once you get their backstory, what I call their BEL, their before embroidery life, because their BEL always, to me, lays the foundation of the road into their embroidery life. I think that each of us has, passions, interests, hobbies, skills, superpowers, whatever you want to call it, things that you're passionate about or that bring you joy or light you up. Obviously, mine's somewhat embroidery. But things that get you enthusiastic. It's going to be super easy, fun, profitable, enjoyable for you to talk about that topic with people that have that in common interest with you. My dad was into ham radio, talking to people all over the world with radio waves bouncing off the clouds in the mountains. But we'd be sitting there at the dining room table and he'd be talking to someone in Okinawa or Australia. It was the coolest thing. Do I know anything about it? No, but he did. So he started selling embroidered stuff with their handle, which is the radio operator's number. And I still know my dad's. It's like a 8-character KD875 or something like that. But they all wanted their handle on a jacket, a hat, a shirt, a bag, stuff, the tote bags they carried all their gear in. So he talked ham radio, so he sold to ham radio operators. So I wouldn't know the first thing how to talk to these folks. Not only was he literally talking to them on the AM radio, he then was communicating with them about buying product. To him, it wasn't sales. It was helping his friends express their interest in their hobby. So I think when you have, I have a girlfriend I grew up with that was really into horses. She rode all the time. They boarded horses. I got to go with her sometimes and ride the horses that needed exercise. That's as much as I knew of a horse, which end to get in, which side to get on and which end not to stand next to. But beyond that, I didn't know anything about horses. Mm-hmm. But she grew up and she runs a horse therapy program for kids that have had like car accidents and quadriplegics and stuff. And she does horse therapy, equine therapy with these people. So I did a bunch of embroidery for her horse therapy camp because I know her passion for helping people and embroidery and getting bags that handled all the gear for the kids to be able to carry their own gear with their wheelchair out to the stables and all of this stuff. So we designed a whole series of bags that were specific for the horses and for the stuff they needed to get on the horses.
So that really, that actually is kind of exciting because you're identifying first your passion, which is embroidery. And then I do agree with you. You're looking at your surroundings and what you know, because I mean, to sell, like your dad, to sell products within a circle of people that you know. But I love the way you're also, and that might be part of your successful business hacks, because that's one class you're going to be giving. Part of it also is to identify the people around you and what they're passionate about.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Yeah, so that's one of the classes is successful business hacks, and I'm sure I don't want you to give away the baby with the bathwater, that's for sure. But that it really will be about defining your niche and also learning how to define niches of the people that you know. And there's a lot of formulas to do that. The other one, and this one I'm really excited about, you're going to be giving a class called Effective Marketing Ideas for Less Than $100. Now, it's kind of funny because you had mentioned earlier on about inviting all of these guys, these high-end embroiderers out for lunch, and I knew you had them. I knew you had them at lunch because I was a commercial embroiderer. I got to be honest, it's a penny business when you get to that level. And if my grandfather was very, very frugal, but he taught me that in our industry, you count your pennies because they turn into dollars. So it didn't surprise me when you got them all to go out to lunch with you. But when that's the first thing I ask to this day. I've learned as I get older to minimize my risk. And minimizing risk means don't spend money unwisely, right? And I'm really excited.
Fail small, fail often, but then when it works, amplify.
Exactly. So that's another one you're going to be doing is marketing ideas for under $100. And without giving anything away, can you touch on that a little bit?
Absolutely. And it is one I absolutely love talking about because everybody has so many opportunities for amplifying their message that, hey, I'm doing this service. And it's not, you don't have to go become a used car salesman, buy my stuff. There are so many other ways to go at it. People are not walking around naked. They have a closet full of clothes. So they're not actually buying clothes. Stop selling clothes with a logo. You're actually selling the company identity. You're selling the family reunion, which part of the family they're in. You're selling the fact that this new baby arrived in this family and they want to celebrate that with something that's going to be an heirloom.
Yeah.
You're not selling to people who don't have clothes.
Yeah, and we know that the number one target market for crazy people who are going to spend money are grandparents. Because I know you're a recent grandma, right?
Yep, I have a new 3.5-month-old baby.
Yeah, and I have two grandsons. And I always thought people were a little kooky when they start talking about their grandkids, but I totally get it now, and I know you do too.
Oh, actually, I will admit I did make John come on early, and I held up the baby so he could see her.
Yes, I saw the baby. So, and we'll have to do that during the web. No, I'm just kidding. So
Yeah, I'm like, oh, hey, John, before we start, here's the baby.
here's the baby. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyways, I'm looking really, really forward to you joining us on that. I think it's going to be lots of fun because I'm looking forward to learning things as well. And I can tell we're very, very like-minded. And I love your thing about, spend a little bit and see if the ideas work. And if they do, then you capitalize on those. And that's when you start.
Spend and fail, spend and succeed, then spend more.
Yeah, so that's going to be awesome. So anyways, did you have anything else, Jennifer? Did we have any questions coming in from people? Or okay, Jennifer's.
You really haven't said.
I've got a Jennifer here and a Jennifer over there. If anybody has any little questions that they want to ask, please ask them now. My Jennifer over here will, get them in. I was hoping actually that my Jennifer would have popped her head in and said, hi, Jennifer, because I have not been able to get Jennifer to come on any of these lives. It's one of those things.
Jennifer.
People don't actually.
You can only handle one Jennifer at a time.
Okay, obviously everybody heard that. Yeah, I can only handle one.
Well,
and you're right.
If I hold the baby up again, she'll come over.
I could not handle two Jennifers. I can guarantee you that. So not going to happen. But
that's why there's a whole country between us.
That's right. But anyways, are we good?
I think so.
Okay. Well, anyways, I really appreciate you joining us, Jennifer. And again, we are going to be.
Thank you for having me.
Let's see if I can have this date come up. Yes, there we go. We are going to be October the 17th. We are going to be having this, just so you guys know. When you sign up, this will stay in your classroom and you can watch it over and over again for an entire year. So you can stream it as many times as you want. But I know it's going to be a great event. Jennifer's going to be teaching 2 classes. My sons are going to be giving classes, and we will have Elnor and Frank, representatives from ZSK, coming in as well. So it's going to be a busy day, and it's going to be a lot of information. So
it's going to be a fast track for anybody wanting to get started in business.
Yes, definitely. And it is, you're very right. I mean, I wish I would have known a lot of these things that we are going to be discussing with people years and years ago, but it's never too late to learn. And sometimes spending money on education, it pays huge dividends. And that is something Jesse was on last week. My son, Jesse, actually, he is constantly, even after hours, just on podcasts and taking courses and things, just with regards to social media and marketing. But it's the best money you can spend is quality education to get you past not only the learning curve, but to get your business up and running quickly. So,
that's how you set yourself apart.
Cool.
The link is there. If they have any questions.
Okay. Yeah, the link is there if anybody has any questions. Otherwise, I'll be wrapping this up momentarily.
Patty says, will the
Thank you
seminar
for
be
having me. I
appropriate
will.
For anyone who has not yet decided about starting a business with embroidery, or only people who are
Jennifer, can you come in here closer and repeat that, because that was really long. Just get a little closer.
I didn't hear you.
See, Jennifer didn't hear you over here.
I didn't hear you.
Here she comes.
Hey.
No.
Patty was asking, is the seminar appropriate for anyone who's not decided about starting a business with embroidery, or is it only for people who are already in the business?
I'll go first on that one. To be honest, I honestly think that if somebody is thinking about getting into an endeavor, and whether you're buying a machine that costs $600 or $15,000, it's really valuable for you to take a course that is reasonably priced to help you make that educated decision if this is something, number one, that you want to do. Because if you love embroidery, the last thing you want to do is have the joy sucked out of it by starting a business and failing, right? So if you love embroidery already and you're thinking that this might be possibly for you, then taking this webinar, I think, is well worth the time, because it will help you make that educated decision if you want to invest time and money moving forward.
I would support what John said. If I could have started my business knowing the things that I know I'm going to teach, much less the things that the rest of the dear guys are going to teach, or the other folks that are involved, it ensures that you don't make the same expensive mistakes. And even if you avoid 2 of those, you've more than covered the cost of the class. And I guarantee, I hate to lay that word out there, but I do feel comfortable in this case. I guarantee that we will save you mistakes at more than the value of the webinar, if nothing else.
Yeah, I'll guarantee that as well. I mean, we had a couple of questions come in, I guess, on the advertising that we've been doing on Facebook. Some people were asking, I currently own an Etsy shop. Would this class be suitable for me? And I think that anybody who's structured and selling embroidery, and just like you said, if a person can increase their workflow, get some more marketing ideas, find out, ways to, spend money wisely with either Facebook ads or Google ads, or how to, structure, which way to hold your camera on Facebook stories and how to get in front of any information like that that can make your current business operate either, more smoothly or generate more customers coming in. Right. I do think this is for, anybody. And some people are also right now transitioning or adjusting from the way they were selling 6 months ago to how things are happening now, because that also has done a complete turn. So
right. I'm curious how many people already have a home-based business.
Yeah, if you already currently have a home-based business, give us some thumbs up or some hearts. And and odds are, if you do, you would agree with us. I used to, I remember the first class that I gave, Jennifer, was at ISS 25 years ago. And I did a full day class on digitizing. And I did it with a overhead projector, an easel, and 4 different colors of markers. And that was, that was the time.
Oh,
and
you were digitizing on a tablet. You couldn't bring it. You were on a big table.
Yeah, so we were just verbally explaining the theory. And I remember I was so intimidated because most of the people in that class, I was, maybe 30 years old. And most of the people in that class were in their 50s or, plus. And I was so intimidated because these were old school punchers who were doing this as long as I have. And after the class, I just asked them straight out. I said, did those of you who have been doing this for decades, did you learn anything? And a few of them just spoke up and said, well, to be honest, I picked up 1 or 2 things just because of my background being, trained by a Shifley puncher. I picked up 1 or 2 things that made the whole day worthwhile. And if you do have an existing business, and if you can pick up a couple of little diamonds, then it's worth the time.
Absolutely. If you can increase workflow, production, profit with either marketing, management, or just general organization, somewhere in there, there's going to be something that's going to be a game changer for you.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you very much, Jennifer. I'm going to wrap it up now, and I appreciate your coming on. And we might call you one more time before October. We'll see. But it'll be just for you to get the grandbaby. And
all right. Well, thanks for having me. Good to see you guys.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye. Take care, everyone.